Welcome to the deep dive. So we received this really quite raw personal account you sent in. It's titled, "What does it feel like to come inside a woman for the first time?"
Right. Yeah, it's very direct, unfiltered, really.
Definitely. And we should acknowledge up front the topic, the language, it's intimate, maybe intense for some listeners.
Absolutely. But our goal here isn't just to recount the story. It's to really try and understand the feelings, the, shifts in perspective being described.
Yeah, the whole multifaceted experience for both the man and, well, the woman as he shares her perspective too.
Exactly. To explore what's going on beneath the surface of this first-time event.
Okay, so let's dive in. Starting with the man's experience. He draws a really sharp contrast with what came before.
Mm-hmm.
He says masturbation was an afterthought at best, if not a nuisance.
Yeah.
Using condoms?
Yeah, he says it wasn't much better or different from masturbating.
So that baseline, what does that tell you? It sounds like something was missing for him.
It really does suggest a significant disconnect, doesn't it? Like his previous experiences lacked a certain depth or maybe connection, fulfillment. Something wasn't clicking.
Which makes what happened next even more striking.
Totally.
His immediate reaction to coming inside his partner for the first time was just, dear God, this changes everything.
Wow, yeah.
And then he goes on saying, it fulfilled me, completed me like nothing else ever had, like I suddenly knew my purpose in life. I mean, that's incredibly powerful language.
It really is. That sense of completion of purpose. It's fascinating.
What do you think might be driving that? Is it purely physical sensation or something deeper?
Well, it's likely a mix, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, for some individuals, that specific act, unprotected intercourse, internal ejaculation, it can tap into some very, very deep-seated feelings.
Like?
Feelings about intimacy, sure, but maybe even subconscious stuff related to procreation. The biological imperative, even if having a baby wasn't the conscious thought at all.
Right, like a primal switch being flipped.
Kind of, yeah. On some level, it could trigger these really powerful, almost foundational feelings of fulfillment, connection, purpose.
And it seems like this one experience just completely recalibrated everything for him sexually going forward.
It seems that way from the account.
He mentions later, after his wife started using an IUD, that sex became on a different level. He says penetrating her without the condom felt so much different, better, and natural.
That word natural keeps coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think that shift was so profound for him? What makes it feel more natural?
Well, if we think about intimacy, removing that physical barrier, the condom, it can really enhance the sensation of closeness. Vulnerability, maybe. Skin-on-skin contact is different.
Right.
And that feeling of internal ejaculation, it can definitely heighten the sense of connection. It makes the act feel more immediate, more intimate, and, well, like he says, natural.
So the physical experience seems really deeply tied into the emotional side for him.
It certainly seems that way, yeah. The psychological aspects of the encounter are amplified by the physical sensations.
He gives quite a vivid description of that first time with his wife, specifically missionary position, talks about her being so hot and wet, feeling like he was entering a cave. And he said, the more I fucked her, the better it felt. She seemed to enjoy it more too.
Right. And that part's key. She seemed to enjoy it more too.
Yeah, it sounds like there was a real synergy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
His description highlights that reciprocity. Her physical response seemed to amplify his sensations, and presumably vice versa, creating this positive feedback loop.
Which would intensify the whole thing for both of them.
Definitely. It really speaks to how interconnected partners can be during sex, how mutual enjoyment boosts intimacy.
And he wasn't just, lost in the moment entirely. He was quite intentional beforehand.
How so?
Well, he mentions making sure she had an orgasm first through licking and fingering and then communicating right before he came saying, I told her I was about to go deep.
Okay, that suggests a level of consideration, doesn't it? It's not just about his own release.
Right.
Prioritizing her pleasure, communicating his intention, that creates a context of shared experience, shared vulnerability even.
Which probably made the moment itself feel even more significant for both of them.
Very likely, yes.
Then comes the actual moment of ejaculation. He describes it. Pushed my penis as deep as I could inside her and released my semen while doing it, and then immediately notes it was messy.
The messiness.
Yeah, he keeps circling back to that. Felt like he came a lot. They were both drained and panting. He even looked at the visual aftermath and called it messy and dirty, yet very erotic. Why focus so much on that aspect, the messiness being erotic? Seems counterintuitive, maybe.
Well, it's fascinating, isn't it, how that raw physicality, the sort of uncontained nature of it becomes part of the eroticism for him.
Yeah.
Sometimes that very messiness, something maybe seen as taboo or uncontrolled, can actually amplify the sense of visceral intimacy. Like it's breaking down barriers, physical, maybe psychological ones too.
Huh. So it's less about literal dirtiness and more about intensity, lack of inhibition.
Perhaps, yeah.
Oh,
It really underscores how personal and unique individual perceptions of sensuality can be. What one person finds messy, another finds incredibly erotic in context.
but then the tone shifts dramatically right after this intense, erotic, purposeful feeling.
Comes the fear.
Yeah. He says he was scared out of my mind about pregnancy. They were only 19.
Right. Reality hits.
He felt like one little experience is going to fuck my life up. And it wasn't just a fleeting thought. It led them to abstain from sex for 4 weeks, even though they stayed together.
Wow. Okay. That really highlights the complex mix of emotions here.
How do you square that intense fear with the earlier feelings? The elation, the sense of purpose.
It shows how layered these experiences are, doesn't it? The initial euphoria, that powerful connection, it was almost immediately tempered by this very real, very practical anxiety about consequences.
The potential life-altering consequence of unprotected sex.
Exactly. Especially at that age. It just underscores the weight that can come with it and that potential clash between, immediate pleasure and the longer-term worries.
And that anxiety didn't just vanish. He mentions it took 9 months of them being sexually active after she got the IUD before he fully trusted it was working because she hadn't gotten pregnant.
9 months is a long time to carry that underlying worry.
Right. It must have impacted their intimacy during that period.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
It really emphasizes the psychological side of contraception, doesn't it? And how crucial trust and open communication are between partners about these things. Lingering doubt can definitely cast a shadow.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit. He also shares what he understands to be the woman's perspective.
Right, as relayed through him.
She apparently described the feeling of being filled up as incomparable. What's the significance there, potentially?
Well, for some women, that sensation of being physically filled, especially with the release of semen, can be really deeply connected to feelings of intimacy.
Connection,
yeah, or even a feeling of being completely possessed by or unified with their partner. It can be a very powerful, almost primal sensation for some.
And she also apparently emphasized the arousal during his climax inside her, saying, that moment the dick feels the hardest, and we suddenly feel the warm come inside us while the dick is pumping and the guy moaning and fucks us rough in order to get it all out.
That's a very specific, intense description.
Very. And she adds, this moment is the best and hottest opportunity for us to come as well.
Okay, so that illustrates a really powerful synergy again, doesn't it?
How so?
The combination of physical sensations, the deep penetration, the feeling of his climax, the warmth, the movement, it seems to create this peak sensory experience for her that's highly conducive to her own orgasm. His intensity fuels hers.
Right, like his peak is her trigger point.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least a moment of maximum arousal and opportunity.
Then there's this other part, which was, well, quite striking. She apparently said, for me, and also for many other women I know, the thought of the guy using me as a toy to fulfill his needs and finish inside my hole turns me on a faff.
Okay.
And knowing we're the final stop for that energy, it turns us on more than words can say. That's quite a perspective on female desire.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it reveals this fascinating psychological dimension, right?
Absolutely.
Where the act of being the recipient, the vessel almost, for her partner's ultimate release, being that final stop for his sexual energy, that itself becomes a major source of arousal.
A feeling of being intensely desired in that specific way.
Exactly. It feels like being the absolute focus of his need and release. It really highlights how diverse female sexual responses can be, and it certainly challenges any single, simple idea of what constitutes female pleasure.
Yeah, it's clear this whole account, while it's just one story, touches on some really fundamental aspects of sex and intimacy for both of them.
Absolutely. It gives us a valuable, albeit secondhand in the woman's case, but still valuable glimpse into those profound physical and emotional sensations tied to this particular sexual milestone.
This account really does offer a powerful window into a deeply personal experience. It makes you think, doesn't it? What does it tell us about the significance we place on certain sexual milestones, like firsts?
Or maybe about the communication, or sometimes the lack of communication around them.
Exactly. It kind of prompts you, the listener, to consider the different layers involved here. Intimacy, vulnerability, pleasure, fear. what resonates most profoundly?
Yeah. I think ultimately this deep dive just underscores how intensely personal sexual experience is, how seemingly simple acts can carry just enormous emotional and psychological weight.
And the importance of understanding within relationships.
Absolutely. Open communication, mutual respect, understanding,
Yeah.
and just acknowledging the complex interplay of it all. Physical sensation, emotional connection, maybe even those deeper biological drives we talked
Yeah.
about. They all shape these experiences.
It's been a really fascinating exploration unpacking this.
Yeah, it really has a lot to think about.
Thanks for diving deep with me.